So let me educate you. But also just feeling like I have a purpose on this life. So my setbacks, my challenges are a part of that story. And so when I look for solutions, it's based off of what's going to make this better. And so even when I talk about the Black community, the struggles that we have, I mean, a core part of the work that I do is in education advocacy. I don't want to focus and concentrate on the statistics that tell us that the NAEP scores are horrible for Black kids. I want to focus on where are schools doing well in spite of that? Where do we have people like you who are getting out of the system and saying, it's not my child that's the problem, it's the system that's the problem. And so I have just really been very intentional about making sure that my story and the stories that I'm telling are those from positivity and solutions driven.
Nice. And where are you? What state are you in?
I so I've lived in a lot of different states, but I am now currently residing in Houston, Texas. And
Okay.
according to my kids, I can't leave because they like, look, we tired of moving. So
Oh, really?
yeah, well, the funny thing is, growing up, I kid you not, I've had over 30 different addresses from the
Mm,
time I was born till I was, what, 20, 21 years old?
really?
Which is so odd. For me, it's not odd, it's normal. But, for my husband, the house he grew up in was different raising house he grew up in,
Wow.
right? So it was just like totally different experiences. And I was just like, oh, you was a baby? Like, don't know that world. And because of that, again, a part of that is trauma, but because of that, it's nothing for me to pack up and leave. And so
Mhm.
even when I had my children, because I was raised in that environment, I got a job. We lived in Jersey, and I got a job offer to move us to California, and I was ready to go in 2 weeks. And they were like, they were young at that point, so I was like, okay, y'all resilient, y'all adjust. So we moved to Northern California, and then I got promoted, and I had to move to Southern California. There's another move for them, and then I started seeing the pattern of wait, they've been to three different schools,
Mm.
and they're only in the third and fifth grade at this point. So then I was like, I don't want them to have that same type of environment that I did where they're constantly moving around. And so I was like, okay, next place we move, like that's going to be it until they graduate. And so when we moved and we got our house in Houston, the first thing they said was, okay, this is it, right? Like this is where we're staying. And I was like, yes. So I made that commitment. Now, after they graduate, I may move again, but for now, we
Right,
got a couple years.
exactly. And I love Houston. The first time I went to Houston, I was like, oh, I'm gonna move here. I was like 21. I'm moving here.
Yeah, yeah. It's so funny because, a lot of people, when we say move to Texas, they're like, why you move to Texas? Especially Californians. But even our folks on the Northeast were like, why are y'all moving to Texas? But I will tell you, um, and I don't know if it's because Houston's like this little microcosm in a bigger state. But the culture here, just the environment, it feels like a small, like New York City or Oakland, or it has a lot of that vibe to it in different pockets. Now we're in the suburbs, we're outside of Houston proper, but we're like 25 minutes away. And like we go to shows like we would when we were in New York, and to going to Broadway shows. We're big foodies, so we go to a lot of great restaurants, and the people are really cool. And then one thing I will say about Texas in general. I don't know where people lie on the political spectrum, but it's not as, if you were more like Democratic leaning, it's not as conservative as people think it is. I mean, and again, this may just be Houston proper, but I don't know if it's because it's an open carry state or what, but people kind of stay in line a little bit when they know I could have a gun and you could have a gun too.
We over here like that too, looking like the
Yeah.
wild, wild west. Everybody
Right.
got a
It's a
gun.
little different about how people want to pop off when there's
Mhm.
consequences, immediate consequences. So I don't know. That's kind of been our experience. And yeah, I mean, I love our neighborhood. All of our neighbors, we like enlisted a block party on our block because
Oh,
I also lived on the
yes.
Northeast, and that's a big thing on the Northeast. And so when we moved here, we were like, we can just start a block party here. And so every Halloween we
Nice.
have a block party, and everyone comes out, and it's been really cool. So.
Oh, sweet. How's the schools there?
The schools are good. They're huge. I mean, I don't know if you ever saw that show, Friday Night Lights.
I love the movie Friday Night
Yeah, yeah.
Lights.
Well, it is real. I was like, my daughter's in high
You
school
want to
this
win?
year.
Put booby in. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. You really are a fan. Yeah, so my daughter she's in high school this year and she's an athlete.
Mm,
And when I tell you homecoming was lit, like we had like a rally and a parade and
mm.
I was like, I feel like I'm in a movie right now. Like this is real, you know? And so it's really cool to see that be their experiences because again, I moved around a lot. In my high school, I will only go back to my high school to bomb it. It's like that was not a good experience at all. So
Well.
yeah, maybe we should stop. We shouldn't have that on record just in case something happens in
I know,
school. I want to be
right?
a
Like,
suspect.
wait a minute, because
Yeah. The FBI be like, I heard this person say, and of course that was decades ago, so it may have changed. But oh, when I tell you, I was just telling my mom the other day because we're working more with homeschool families and stuff. I was like, oh, I wish we would have known about homeschool because ninth to 12th grade was traumatic for me.
really?
Oh yeah, it was really bad. It was really
Was
bad.
it like bullying or was it, oh, it was bullying?
It was a combination of all the things. Of course,
Adults and kids?
we
Because you
say.
know that, I said adults and kids because you know that's
Oh
the
yeah.
thing.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
most definitely. I'm X generation, and so our generation is always like we're tough as nails, and so we didn't call it bullying. We just called it going to
I
school
know.
and trying to
Yeah.
survive, right? Like, but yeah, it was. So just to give you context, I grew up in Southern California in an area called Pomona. And Pomona, a lot of people know Pomona from like Claremont Colleges, Pomona Pitzer. But like most liberal arts universities, it's usually surrounded by the hood. And so
Mhm.
we lived in an area right across the freeway called Phillips Ranch, which was like a new developing area. A lot of middle upper class people moved there. Um, but it was urban sprawl. It was like they moved everybody out of LA to these big homes, but they had no schools, they had no systems built. So the only
Mm.
schools were these schools that were already there that had been there since like the 1940s, 1950s that were public schools that just really weren't run very well. Or if you could afford to go to a private school. Again, with the family of six, I couldn't afford to go to private school. So there was this imagery of being this little rich kid because I lived across the freeway in these like up and coming suburban type of houses, and then I had to go to school and kind of like this like I won't say rural, but it was rural because literally it was kind of an hour and a half outside of LA. And it was like kind of a cow town, but it had its own. It has grown a lot more since then. Anyway, long story short, there were a lot of kids at our school that were in the foster system. There were a lot of families who had moved from like Compton and Long Beach out to that area to have better areas for their kids, and their kids were still of that like inner city mindset, so they thought they was gangsters, even though they was like cow gangsters, And it was a public school, a very large public school, and so all the encompassing things of what we have to deal with different culture dynamics, different socioeconomic dynamics. And here I am. I've always talked very proper. My family even makes fun of me for talking really proper. So I'm going to the school and I've got girls coming to school, representing Crips and gang affiliation. Then I've got, girls that are in foster care. And interesting enough, my mother was a hairstylist who owned two beauty salons in Pomona. And she did everybody's hair. And because she did everybody's hair, my hair was always laid. Like I always had my hair done. It was a good thing and a bad thing. My brother had a couple of jerry curls, I gotta admit, But anyway, my mother's always been big about presenting yourself and fake it till you make it. Like you don't let people know your circumstances and you can always, you know, fake it till you make it. So
Appear
yeah,
to
I
be
went to
well.
school and people bullied me. I had longer hair when I was in ninth grade, and this girl I'll never forget. It was probably like the second week of school. This girl came up and snatched my ponytail because she thought it was fake.
Oh wow.
And I was like, what the heck is going on? And she was like, oh, I thought your hair was fake. And I'm looking at her like, well, what if it
Well,
was?
I'm about to say yes, girl. Why do you want to fight? Like,
Yeah, yeah,
why are we here?
right. And it was like, so I got in a fight every year.
Oh man.
Yeah, I learned how to fight, so they didn't beat me, but I got into a fight. I got into a lot of fights. I tried to stay active. Like I did sports. I tried to do anything and everything I could do to stay active because I couldn't go anywhere else, right? Which kind of saved me in a sense because I was an athlete, and then I try to do like student council and other things just to help me out. And at the same time, there was a lot going on with my home environment. My mother and father. My father had substance abuse, and alcoholism is one of those diseases that when it's bad, but when it's good, it's great. You know what I mean? Like if he can drink and hold a job, it's fantastic. But when he's belligerent and can't keep himself employed, then we're struggling. So my childhood was always up and down. I would go from having this great house on the hill when my dad was employed because he was an engineer to living out of our car or living in a hotel because my mother would leave my father and try to make it on her own because it was just such a hard thing to go back and forth. So that was just my entire high school experience. Like literally my junior year, I remember writing my college applications in the Denny's because we lived in the Motel 6, and I would go to the Denny's to eat, and I was at the Denny's table writing my college application. So the dynamic of the both was just a lot. And then I was angry. And so I would go to school like waiting for somebody to say something to me. And then the teachers weren't responsive to that. They didn't have the time because it was so many kids to really invest in like children unless you were like the A student, and I wasn't because I was back and forth to school all the time. So it just was a lot. It was very hard for me. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And look
Yeah.
at you breaking cycles though.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I definitely and like I said, a lot of it is because in spite of your circumstances, you prevail. And so that was always the case in our family. Like it doesn't matter where you come from, it doesn't matter what people say about you. How do you feel? What is your purpose? What does God say about you? So, and I believe that. I believe that I was called for higher purpose. I believe that, this situation was only temporary and I was going to get out of it and things were going to get better. And that's how I always operated.
Trust the process.
Hmm.
Trust the process. Because
Yes,
here we
ma'am.
are. Here we are. And you
Hmm.
have I Choose organization.
Yeah, yeah.
Let's talk
Choose
about
freedom to
it.
choose schools. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So freedom to choose schools, it really started as a passion project. Like I said, I've been in education for 20 years. The evolution of my education and career was really focused on public policy and laws and how laws are created. And so for several years, I worked in like as like the vice president of government affairs or vice president of strategic policy. And about oh what well from two in 2009 or 2010, I relocated to the East and kind of did a career transition because I did work in corporate and in the entertainment industry for several years. But I
Mm.
wanted to work in an area where I had more of an impact. And so I moved to the East and I learned about charter schools at that time. Walked into this charter school that was a public school and was like, what is this? Like I've never seen anything like this in my life. And it was in Brooklyn, New York. And just fell in love with with what they were doing in their program and found out like there was a growing industry and basically found my niche there as far as being a policy advocate. But I also found that there was a disconnect between my experiences as a Black mother than my experiences as like a policy person.